Hey, what's up, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about the Realmbreaker build I'm rocking, something that some of you may already know about. But for those who are getting into group PvP, this is a very strong build. I wouldn't say must-have, but almost must-have build for a lot of group play. And that could range from groups of 4, groups of 7, groups of 10 plus. Very, very strong weapon, and that's the Realmbreaker. Going to be covering the build I usually run, as well as some alternative gear pieces you can rock, as well as what I'm looking for when I'm fighting, so you can kind of understand how to use your abilities properly. Uh, so yeah, I'll walk through, and then if you guys haven't seen these videos before, beginning I walk through and explain everything, and at the end I show gameplay to verify I know what I'm talking about a bit. So if you're interested, check out the gameplay. There's timestamps, you can skip to that if you just want to see the cool montage. But otherwise, let's get into it. So the main build that I run for the group Realmbreaker build, so obviously we have Realmbreaker. For the Q, I run Rending Rage for the leap and everything with the root as well. And then I usually run either Deadly Chop or Battle Rush. Deadly Chop is if we're needing a bit more DPS. I like to run this because it obviously 778 physical damage, and this is a 5/3, very very strong kind of just slap of damage, as well as decreases damage resistance. So if we're working more with DPS and trying to fill more DPS role and have focus more on the damage side of the weapon, I'm gonna rock this. And so when we jump in, I can isolate someone, whether that's their if we need to isolate their tanker for a reason, or if we're jumping on their healer, decrease the damage resistances and be able to burst them down faster. If we are more heavy on DPS, then I'll run Battle Rush because I want to make sure I can use this to either decrease healing received of enemies or increase healing received of allies, or both. If it's on the clump, I can E in with the Realmbreaker, and then I could theoretically Battle Rush on top of that clump and immediately decrease that even more and increase the healings for the clump fight if I want. So those are the two. Depends on how we are looking in terms of what our comp is and what we are needing. Obviously, Realmbreaker E, and then deep cuts for the auto attacks to inflict the extra bleed as well. But you get some auto attacks here and there with the Realmbreaker, but it's a pretty slow auto, so you're not worried too much about that. The main helmet I use is Helmet of Valor for the Purifying Smoke. You conjure 4-meter radius that cleanses all crowd control effects and debuffs from allies, and then purges all smokes of enemies within or all buffs of enemies within the smoke. This is very, very important. When you are using the Helmet of Valor, you can look at it. If there's a clump, you see CC down in your clump, you could toss it down on the clump to, free them from the CC. What I try to do is, if we have some sort of defensive tank, I'm less worried about the clump, as I am saving it to watch my healer, and they get jumped on and crowd controlled. I can free my healer, because a lot of group fights, oftentimes, if there's not an initial burst, then it's kind of the healers that can kind of turn the tide and kind of decide how the fight's going to determine. And so if my healer's getting jumped, obviously I don't want to allow that. And so I'll kind of usually hold on to my Purified Smoke, watch my healers, make sure that he stays good. And then if he's in the good spot and I see opportunities instead of my allies, then I can do so. For Jacket, Hellion Jacket is, for most melee builds with the current meta, with how strong Hellion Jacket is, it's kind of a must-have. Like, having this and then fighting a team who doesn't have this, you're going to win the fight oftentimes if you're not one-shot, because you're just going to out-sustain them to such a high degree. Highly, highly, highly recommend Hellion Jacket. It is very strong, keeps you alive. You can use it aggressively or defensively, if you need to pop it as you are retreating to kind of keep yourself a little bit higher and to keep your health up as you're pulling back for another initiation, or as you jump in, you could use it. Obviously, the damage is based on your current health. You don't necessarily want to be waiting until you are below 20% health to use it. But usually, if I need to pop it at full HP just because we're looking like we need just a little bit more damage, then maybe. But otherwise, I'm going to be saving this for when I get down to a little bit more HP, but not to a spot where I'm too extreme yet, and I can pop it and start dealing some damage. And if my healer heals me up, great. And if not, then it allows me to at least survive for a bit. And I'll be running Balanced Mind with this. And then lastly, Mercenary Shoes. Having the break free is huge, because this allows you to be able to focus on yourself from staying free and save your Purifying Smoke when needed. It can get you out big CCs, everything like that. If you're in the more roaming style and you're more worried about chase, then you can always swap to energy or a refreshing sprint on the mercenary shoes if you need to. But otherwise, you can stick with break free and just be allowed to maneuver around the battle, reposition, make sure you're not stuck, and so you can follow your E with whatever your clump tank is doing, whatever clump you guys have going on for your Realmbreaker. Now, some alternative gear pieces, you could drop the Helmet of Valor for maybe a Fiend Cowl or a Cowl of Purity if you're just looking for more raw damage and interrupts with the Avalonian Beam, or if you're a more smaller scale doing something like, 2v2s or 3v3 group fights or something like that, then you could go in with a Fiend's Cowl to be able to purge. That is an option as well. I think once you start getting to like 6+ players, you really need to run Helmet of Valor, but these are also good options for depending how you're playing. And then for shoes alternatives, you could run Scholar Sandals for the energetic sprint. You don't usually in a lot of fights run out of mana, but it does happen if it's an extended fight. If you don't have an ally who has like a Druid Cowl, you can suffer with mana, so it's not a bad option to have someone who, if you don't have other mana options, to run Scholar Sandals for the energetic sprint. It's kind of preference and how your playstyle is, what kind of fights you're doing. And then if I'm looking more DPS, I will be rocking the Avalonian Cape for the melee burst when I auto attack. That's a good burst of damage right now with this 4/3. It's a 385 magic damage. So it's like, it's a nice little burst as you leap in with your E. As they're knocked up, you get an auto off. The burst goes off. You can then W, Q, root them. And then at this point, just see how the fight is going. If you're chasing, you can chase. If you need to look at that point. Again, this kind of goes into the combo. You can kind of get that combo off, and then once the initial engage is over, you're kind of looking to see, does anyone need purifying? How's my health? Do I need to pop Hellion? Am I in a tough spot where I need to break free away, etc.? And then you can kind of reset until the same thing. Your combo is up, you that auto into the W, and then you can look to get your bleed stacks down. And if you need to, you can pop the third Q. Again, only ever pop third Qs if you need to root. Otherwise, don't waste it. Just keep refresh with the double Q so you can keep the bleeds always at 3 out of 3. And if they're running away, then you can then use the third Q to make sure they lock in. So that's the basic combos, what you're looking for. Obviously, you're looking to follow some type of clump tank or a arcane staff or a witch, like a witch work, who's going to pull them in and be able to land. Again, though, don't be afraid to just use your Realmbreaker E. If you get a couple catch, you don't have to get the full enemy squad all in one clump. Feels amazing when you do, but you don't have to. Now, if you don't necessarily need the extra damage, the other option I would say would be Fort Sterling, as this is going to make it where, again, another cleanse effect where it's going to really be allowing you to be mobile and make sure, because this is, it can be a very aggressive, you stay in the fight, but oftentimes this build, you are going in with the combo, getting your W on the target, getting some Qs down, maybe getting a couple autos and brawling, and then you're usually looking to get out. So having a Fort Sterling cape is also a good option. If you're not really focused on DPS, you want to make sure you stay healthy and alive to keep re-engaging with your Aftershock. Either way, that's the build and some alternatives. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope this kind of helps you understand and think of the things of the combos I talked about and what I'm looking for as you watch this montage, as it might help you improve your Realmbreaker game. Hope you enjoy this. If you're able to beat some people, and if I catch you in the Avalonian Roads, I am sorry for taking your loot. If you like this content, obviously like and subscribe. We'll catch you next time, and yeah, enjoy the montage and catch you all later. Peace out.